What's up, guys? So if you saw the last video, you'll know that I'm pretty sure I fixed the 2JZ E36, the problem with it shutting off all the time. So there's just a couple things left that I need to button up before we can test drive it and confirm if it's fixed or not. One of them being bleeding the handbrake, since we popped a hole in that line with the drive shaft at the last event. And then there's a couple other things that we need to do. So the fix ended up being a problem with the wiring. I had originally had the ECU, since it's an automatic factory ECU, I had it tricked into thinking it was in park so that it would start. You either need park or neutral for it to start, or at least that's what everybody says. So that was causing problems. So I switched it to neutral instead of park, and then I also tricked it into thinking it's in drive. So now it thinks it's in neutral and drive at the same time. So I took it for a test drive like that, and it seemed to have fixed the issue. It didn't shut off on me a single time, so I was super pumped about that. One issue I did notice was that it seems like my rev limit is at about 6,000 RPM instead of the 7,200 that it should be. So I'm thinking that's because the ECU thinks it's in neutral. When it's in neutral, it doesn't let you hit rev limiter, it keeps it at 6,000. So if that's the case, all I need to do is put a switch on that neutral wire so that the ECU thinks it's in neutral when I go to start it, and as soon as the car's running, I can turn it off and then it doesn't think it's in neutral anymore. But before I actually do that, I want to just cut the neutral wire and see if it's even needed at all. Some people say it is, some people say it's not, so we're going to find out. So I'm going to get back to bleeding the handbrake lines. Once that's done, we'll get started on this neutral wiring and we'll go from there. Alright, so we finished bleeding the handbrake and we got the wheels back on. So now it's time for the moment of truth. We're going to lower the car and figure out how close the exhaust is to the ground after fixing it. Alright, let's see. So it's definitely still low, but a lot better than it was. We're probably 4 inches off the ground now, whereas before it was only about 2 inches off the ground. So hopefully we don't scrape the exhaust every time I hit a bump, but let's move on to wiring. Okay, so my neutral wire is this red-black one here, and then the pink one is going to drive. So I'm going to cut the neutral, and we're going to see if the car will still start. If not, then we'll splice that wire and put it on a switch so that we can turn it on and off. All right, let's see if it'll start. Huh. Well, that's interesting. Okay, so I kind of thought that might be the case, but I am a little surprised that it actually worked. My theory is that the ECU doesn't care what gear the car is in for starting, but the neutral safety switch on the automatic car would actually kill power to something. I'd have to look at the diagrams and find out. But either way, that neutral wire does not tell the car that it can start. All it does is tell the car that it's in neutral so that it cuts RPM, I assume. So I guess we're going to take it for a test drive like this and see what happens. lit the tires up. We haven't scraped the exhaust a single time yet, so that's good. Woo! Hell yeah. I'd call that a success. Oh man, I am unbelievably happy right now. I really thought that the last test drive was just a fluke and that it was gonna still be shutting off when I got high in the RPM, but clearly second test drive confirmed the issue is fixed. I'm so happy. So now I'm super excited for the next drift event, which is gonna be in a couple weeks. I'm gonna enter the competition, hopefully bring home a little bit of money, and holy shit does this thing feel fast with this 315 diff. It's actually a longer diff, so it should feel slower, but I think it's just staying in boost longer because of the longer gears, so it just feels super fast. Like I said, I put it in second gear and got up to 4,500 RPM or so, and the boost really kicked in and it just started spinning the tires. It was freaking nut. So yeah, I guess the next step is gonna be prepping for the next drift event. Again, only a few weeks after the last one. So hopefully we have enough tires left. So I need to mount tires. Trying to think of what else I need to do with the car. I made a throttle cable bracket there to get rid of. Before I just had a rubber hose sitting here so that this part of the cable couldn't rub up on the paint. And this is just a little aluminum ferrule that I actually crimped with a brake flare tool. So if you've ever flared brake lines, there's a tool that you clamp the line down in and then you do this whole thing. Well, that clamp, here, let me just show you. Okay, so here's the tool. So like I said, I use this for flaring brake lines, but I took that aluminum ferrule and stuck it in here, and then I put this in the hydraulic press because I actually snapped off one of the studs. I couldn't get enough force on it to crimp the ferrule hard enough with just the bolts on here, so I stuck it in the press and that worked beautifully. May not be the prettiest thing, but for now, for a throttle cable splice, it works just fine. The only other things I really have left to do are like mounting the fire extinguisher because my mount broke at the last event, and just really some other cosmetic stuff, all little things, so I won't bore you guys with all that stuff, but yeah, the car is freaking 100%, at least as far as we know so far. The next drift event will really be the test. Right now we're still running on wastegate spring pressure, which is 10 PSI. I've got a manual boost controller, so if we're feeling a little spicy at the next event, we can stick that in and turn it up to 14 PSI, 15, somewhere in there, and really make some power. If I had to guess on the 10-pound springs right now, it's probably making at least 380, somewhere close to 400, and it feels great. So yeah, things are getting real now. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe, like, comment, do all those things. Hit that bell icon so you get notifications of the next upload. We're gonna have some really cool videos coming in the future. After the drift event, we're definitely gonna take this thing to a dyno and see what kind of numbers it's gonna make. And then once that's all done, once the car is technically done, I'm gonna do a whole cost breakdown video for you guys and kind of cut out all the things that you wouldn't necessarily need for your projects and show you the total so you guys can get an idea of how much it would cost for you to do this to your car. So with that being said, I'm gonna get back to work. I'll pick it up on the next one, so hopefully we'll see you guys there.